Maybe this is why Hunter S. Thompson decided to become the Sheriff of Aspen. I'm Charles Bronson.
Bronson never reveals his sources. I'm also Charles Bronson. This is Messenger of Death on Stinker Madness.
What's that smell?
I don't know about you, but I'm thirsty as fuck. Thirsty as fuck.
Hey, look at this!
Thrill me.
If you come back in here, I'm gonna hit you with so many rights, you're gonna beg for a left.
Thrill me.
Beg for a left.
Thrill me.
Hey, look at this!
No! What? Hang on!
It stinks.
Hang on!
Get to the chopper! Stinker Madness.
Hello and welcome to Stinker Madness. I'm Sam, that's Tucker, and neither one of us are actually Charles Bronson.
Believe it or not. Been going over this place with a fine tooth comb.
My favorite shitty Bronson was on The Simpsons, now I'm going to Emmett's Fix-It shop to fix Emmett. Why did you pick this one?
I was just looking through eligible titles on Amazon, and I came to that, and I was like, I like Bronson. I like Canon. It's on Prime. They haven't done it yet. I remember it being about a Mormon sect, and it's got Bronson in it. That's it.
Yeah. I had done a large run of Bronson, and this one I fell asleep, and I didn't finish it, and I was like, oh, this one probably has some promise. And the other one that I didn't get to is Kinjite, so I've never seen Kinjite, Forbidden Subjects.
Yes.
But I did run
I believe
most
that
of
one
the
opens
canon.
with him sodomizing someone, I think. Or is that a different one? I don't know. I get those two I think there's two where he sodomizes someone with something. I think that might be one. The other's The Evil That Men Do, if I'm remembering correctly.
The Evil That Men Do was one of the ones that I was narrowing it down and I'm going to give it some space before I finally do a Bronson. I've narrowed it down to Love and Bullets and The Evil That Men Do because, and I have to go back and watch them again, unfortunately, to remember which one's which. But there's one where Bronson is basically just watching the movie happen around him the entire time, and I found it to be the most amusing of the bunch because he just can't do it anymore. Yeah. So they just do it all around him, and it's hilarious.
Right. I feel like most of the time he's just there for craft service.
And free sweaters. His sweaters were on point in this one. Good
point. They were very nice. That's a whole collection that year. The Bronson Messenger of Death collection. It was big at Paris Fashion Week or whatever.
I had the triangle, like the half and half angular sweater that he's wearing. His is gray and black, but mine was blue and black. And it didn't look as good on me when I was a kid. And I was like, oh, I got the sweetest sweater ever. And then it looked like shit on me and I felt bad.
Yeah. You were no Bronson as a kid.
No. In fact, sweaters and me in the early 90s just didn't get along. I would see these awesome...
I don't think pullover sweaters get along with many people, to be honest.
Yeah. But if you remember the late 80s and the early 90s, there was all those like triangle sweaters everywhere, and it was like, well, wow, that one kid looks awesome in it, and then you put it on, and you're like, oh, I'm just a frumpy doofus, and it's not this sweater's fault.
Right. Oh, it turns out that guy's awesome, and I suck.
Yeah.
Damn it.
I'm not Corey Haim.
Why can't I be Haim?
As it turns out, I'm pretty glad I wasn't.
Yeah, that didn't turn out well. I must say, I probably mention this every time Bronson's brought up, but I did have a dream one time that my mom was dating Charles Bronson, and I was like at her house, and Bronson was there, and I was flipping around. He was on the other end of the couch, and I was like, oh, fuck, it's Bronson. And I get to a Bronson movie on the TV, and I was like, oh, you probably don't want to watch that. And he was like, hey, it's fine. And then we watched a little bit of it, and he goes, he kind of laughs like he's remembering that scene, you know? And I was just sitting there staring at him the whole time. And that's probably the greatest dream I've ever had in my life. I woke up and I called our friend Shannon and I was like, dude, my mom's dating Bronson. My dream.
I would imagine that he wouldn't mind watching, like if he was in my house dating my mom and I'd be like, oh, you probably don't want to watch this. And he'd say, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
This isn't one of those where they cut my wife out of it too much.
Love and Bullets, I remember there being a shot where someone throws like a hatchet at somebody and then it flies into his back, but it's like from a completely different angle. Cuts together really poorly. It's really good. A little moment like that makes me go, oh, that's a good movie.
Jill Ireland, the most interesting thing I can dig up on this movie, it has nothing to do with it. It was just sort of a very sweet thing that how much he loved Jill Ireland is after she died of breast cancer, he had her ashes put into a cane that he needed to walk at that point so that she was always with him, and then he's buried with that cane.
Aww.
Bronson was just a big softie.
He was. I believe that. He seemed like a real sweetheart.
This was the 8th of 9 collaborations between J. Lee Thompson and Bronson.
Yeah.
St. Ives is the first one, and I think Evil That Men Do is one of them. Definitely Love and Bullets is one of them, but those are fun to watch for the wrong reasons. I really feel like St. Ives is the only one of their collaborations where you're like, yeah, this is actually pretty awesome.
Yeah. I saw that a long, long time ago, but I don't remember it very well.
Yeah, he really liked J. Lee Thompson, probably because J. Lee didn't cut his wife out of the movie. He apparently had a falling out with Walter Hill on Hard Times because he cut his wife out of the movie too much.
Ooh.
And Walter Hill sort of looks back on it like, yeah, I was trying to make a good movie.
Sure, whatever. Do what Bronson wants.
Do what Bronson wants, even though that movie's pretty fucking awesome. I actually feel like a lot of the whole the allure that surrounds the Bronson, besides being just an action ticket, is how awesome Hard Times is. It's one of Walter. I don't know if I like Hard Times better than I like Driver, but they're right up there with the Walter Hill stuff.
All right then.
It made $3 million, and no one knows how much they spent on it. This movie made $3 million.
That's not too bad.
I mean, they probably spent 5, and 2 of it just went right into Yoram and Menaham's pockets, but
who knows if they did? Maybe it was piggybacked on the back of another Bronson movie that they were making that year, and they're like, we have 2 weeks left. Shoot another movie. Who knows?
Yeah. We had done King Solomon's Mines and the Alan Quartermain movies back to back not very long ago, and J. Lee Thompson actually left that double production because he was like, this is too much nonsense. I'm just going to go back. And at that point for Cannon, before he retires, he only does Chuck's movies. He did Firewalker and then every other. So with one Chuck and then Bronson for the rest of them. And then after Kinjite, he's done.
What happened to him after that? Do you know?
I don't think he lived much longer than that.
Okay. So probably all that Chuck Norris exposure killed him.
Just the one time?
Just being around him.
It's like, that guy's too healthy. I'm going to die now.
Like, don't get me started
the other thing
on that guy.
Is sort of interesting about this is that through the movie, I'm watching it, and I'm like, man, they're really giving it to the fundamentalist Mormons pretty hard here. So I had to look up a little bit of what was going on there, and looks like blood atonement was really a thing for quite a while.
All right. Yeah, that's one of my questions for the end of the show.
Perhaps I'll answer it now.
It was is this a fair portrayal of Mormonism?
Not a modern one. They've
maybe some
places. And the fundamentalist Mormons are still doing the polygamy in that, and they're in strange pockets of southern Utah, northern Nevada, and places like that. But apparently in Utah, up until 1994, they had a juror screening question whether or not you believed in blood atonement. So that happened for a while.
Wow. All right. I was not sure.
However, now they should mostly be known about just loving each other, being a little too clean, and making macaroni art out of everything. Too much macaroni art. I don't think there's a lot of LDS people listening to this. And, we grew up, we can say this on the podcast, that Idaho is very heavily LDS. So we grew up around it, and it's like, no, they're just like anybody else. Other than that's a lot of macaroni art.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I've met some strange ducks. But, I was brought up in Seventh-day Adventist, so I know my cults, too, I get it. There's all sorts of different ways people can fuck people up.
Oh, yeah, I grew up Catholic. I'm half
right.
Sicilian, so you want to talk about dark history of a church? Whew. Spanish
Sicilian
Inquisition,
never
bad
forgets.
stuff.
I learned that.
No, it's the Catholic guilt. Yeah.
I have guilt. It's not Catholic.
Then it's just really sort of like half strength guilt.
You think?
I think so.
My family's pretty bad with that. I don't know. See, this is the thing, is that, I couldn't speak to, Seventh-day Adventism writ large, but in our little pocket of it, it's super, super judgmental, just it's all guilt. I just assumed all religions were like that. That's what I assumed.
Are. I just feel like the Catholics have been doing it longer, and they're still a little bit better at it.
They've got it down to a science.
Yeah.
Right.
It's where you go to learn the guilt.
Gotcha.
I should mention the worst loss I ever experienced in a organized basketball game was in high school against the Seventh-day Adventist Church Academy, who were dunking it on us.
Yeah, they were sit down, motherfucker.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
We're
going to go eat our veggie burgers. Shit like that.
I've never been run out of a gym other than that day right there. We got ran out of that gym. It was crazy.
Was this was here in Idaho?
It was Gem State Academy.
Gem State. My dad went to Gem State.
Yeah. Did he play ball?
Nah, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think he was mostly sneaking out and getting in trouble, from what I understand.
Ooh. Yeah. Danger-esque.
Yeah, he didn't really believe in any of it.
Right now, that's a super expensive school to go to. Anyway, let's hop into this movie.
Oh, yeah.
The first thing we see is the Angel of Vengeance?
Sure.
It's like a
statue.
It's like a wood carving of a angel with a sword, and they get some miles out of this thing.
It's the whole
entire credit sequence.
The score is nuts. It's going wild.
It's also the entire ending credit sequence. They go back.
Right.
They pull this shot back out.
Yeah.
Before we get hard into the plot, they do a lot of scenery shooting and location shooting in Colorado in this movie, and I am going to accuse Canon, because of where they were at financially and how they were going to jump ship to MGM, that they were doing movies like this on location so that they could just get all sorts of B shots that they could bring with them to MGM for sale.
Oh, probably.
Look, we showed up with all this stock footage, and MGM's like, great. And they're like, you have to buy it. And they're like, all right. I guess you guys are signing the checks to yourselves anyway, so go ahead.
Sounds right. Can we, I just want to touch on that core music. The score is it's really intense orchestral score, and then it brings in a Latin chorus. I assumed it was Latin, but I swear, especially in the end credits, like as soon as the chorus starts up, it sounds like it goes, Tommy Chong! That's what it sounded like to me.
Maybe it was.
It's the Tommy Chong chorus.
Maybe Tommy Chong is moonlighting, doing scores, and putting himself in.
It could be.
Under an assumed name.
Yes. We'll speculate about all this stuff.
We are... After we finally look at this wooden sculpture of an angel for about 7 minutes...
Feels like it.
We then get whisked away magically to the land of Colorado and are placed in front of the world's creepiest teeter-totter.
Yeah. We're out in the boonies kind of, and there's a house and there's a bunch of kids playing on a playground.
It's just a teeter-totter.
Just a teeter-totter, and they're just running around in the area.
Yeah. 2 of them are trying to use it, but they're not doing a good job.
No, they don't know how to do it. This is the problem with homeschooling.
Ooh, taking shots. Shots fired. Shots fired on homeschool. Pickup pulls up, and a couple of real creepy looks happen from these kids, and the men eventually, and I mean eventually, get out of the pickup. It takes a while.
Long shots of this shadowy figure in a hat sitting behind the wheel. There's a shot that kind of tracks behind his head for a minute, and then it takes the reverse angle in front, but it's still in shadow. You can't really make out his features. And then eventually the kids are like, well, this is fucking creepy, and they bolt out of there. And that's when they finally get out of the truck. They're carrying shotguns. It's kind of scary.
Kinda. It's weird, though, when the kids leave, they're like, wow, that guy's creeping us out, and we're in Creepsville already.
Yeah.
Let's go inside. Inside, we're greeted by a bunch of women and some kids. They usher the kids upstairs, and then there's a long sequence of a man walking slowly to the door, and a woman who is unable to load a shotgun for quite some time.
Yeah, it takes a while. Yeah, she's not very adept at the old loading the ammo.
Now we can't sugarcoat what's about to happen here, because you're like, well, there's a bunch of kids here. There's a man with a gun, a house, one of the pregnant lady holding a shotgun, and another lady who doesn't seem to be pregnant. So he just blows them all away. He shoots the pregnant woman directly in the stomach, because a second pregnant woman will appear, and she takes it, and he's buckshot right to the stomach on all of these women. Goes upstairs after he reloads his gun and dusts those kids. They at least have the common decency to not show the kids getting shot, but we get to see the pregnant women get shot right in the belly.
Yeah, it's pretty hardcore. I was a little taken aback when he opened fire in the kids' room. Must say, I thought, oh well, he'll just these women are going to get killed because it's a Bronson movie. And but this is not your typical Bronson movie, I guess.
No, it is not. And you're really expecting him to just sort of open the door and lift the gun up. And no, they show him unload that thing into the room. And you're like, okay, they're really skating on the edge on this one.
Yeah.
There's a good chance this scene is why it doesn't get raked over the coals by I read the original reviews from the New York Times and the LA Times, and they both claimed that this was competent filmmaking, and I will probably disagree with that later. Okay. But I guess perhaps the shock factor on this one sort of elevated critic reviews. Yeah,
maybe. And the fact that it seems to take the subject matter a little more seriously than maybe other Bronson attempts in those years. It's no Death Wish 3,
Death Wish 4 doesn't seem to take a lot seriously.
No. And Death Wish 3 is a cartoon.
There's another guy in a Canadian tuxedo waiting by the truck while this monster shoots women and children, then he comes back. The odd thing I find is later we're going to find out this guy's the driver, But didn't it seem like to you that the guy in the hat was actually driving?
Well, he says for the first one he was the lookout, and then the second one he was the driver. I think that's what he explains to him when he's trying to get Bronson to cut a deal to give him the name of the killer. He's like, I didn't kill anyone. On the first thing I was a lookout, and then I was the driver.
So the assassin, the main guy, is like, all right, come with me, I need a lookout.
Yeah.
And then after they do this, he's like, oh, by the way, do you know how to drive? And the guy's like,
Next time,
yeah.
why don't you drive?
Next time, why don't you drive? You'll have more to do. I'm paying you a lot, and you're just sort of standing around in a jean jacket.
Yeah. And that guy, the lookout / driver, is the guy that plays the serial killer in the canon Bronson classic 10 to Midnight.
Oh. Been a while since I saw that one. I'll be very honest. Mr. Majestic, I like because it's goofy as hell, and it's really just a guy trying to sell watermelons.
Yeah.
And the stunt driving in that is on point. I haven't seen 10 to Midnight in a long time. I think I liked it. The
You should see
Mechanic
10.
is my favorite.
Really?
I like The Mechanic.
All right. Yeah, it's been decades since I saw The Mechanic. I'll have to get on that again. I just need to do a full Bronson rewatch, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know how long that would
Maybe.
be.
You don't. I mean, it takes... When I did it, and I didn't even do the full Bronson rewatch, I just did the canon Bronson rewatch.
Mm-hmm.
It took me like 3 weeks, and I fell asleep during most of them.
Oh, man.
Had most of them took 2 or 3 swings.
Yeah.
Well, we're now introduced to Old Chuck.
Oh, I'm at the bar. He's at a bar
Apparently
in the city. Denver. In Denver. Yeah.
Denver, Colorado, I guess. His name is Garrett, but he goes by Gar. I'm going to burn this question right now. Is Gar an actual or acceptable shortening of the name Garrett?
I think I'm going to say yes because I love it. Hey, Gar.
Just because you love Gar.
What's up, Gar? I mean, I hope
Why
all
is
his
that
friends
name
sound
Gar?
like that.
Gar, because he's a pirate Gar.
Gar. Yeah, it shouldn't be Gare, but that's short for Gary.
It is.
Gare.
Maybe that's what you do. You're like, well, if they call me Gare, they're going to think I'm Gary, and then people are going to call me Gare Bear, and I hate that, so Gar.
Yeah. The subtitle's spelled it Garr.
Yeah. This way I'm actually the king of a barren wasteland. You must seek out Gar. He can help you on your quest.
Find God. Exactly.
We're then told that he's a newspaper man, and he's friends with the police chief.
He's a great Denver journalist. Like, he is revered. People know him.
He's the Edward R. Murrow of Denver news.
Yeah. He's blowing the lid off shit left and right.
Well, as we're going to find out, he's going to do a hell of a lot more investigating than the fucking police.
Yeah, that's for sure. They probably stay out of these blood feuds.
Do they?
The local cops.
Like, those assholes are shooting each other. Let's just stay out of it.
I feel like it's probably one of those situations where these people feel like they can just get away with whatever because they always have. You know? Yeah. Let's go have an armed... let's storm my brother's homestead with a bunch of people with shotguns. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds reasonable.
At their luncheon, the police chief receives a phone call on a phone that I didn't know existed in 1988, but apparently they had giant cellular phones then.
Yeah.
And he has to go to the crime scene, so he takes the reporter with him.
I was shocked at how small the cell phone looked because it looked like more like a cordless phone at your house. Whereas I remember I think Gordon Gekko has one in Wall Street, but it's like one of the big bricks, like the Zach Morris model, you know?
Yeah.
And this one seemed a little smaller, more compact. I was kind of shocked. I was like, that thing's got to cost $15,000.
Nothing but the best for Denver's finest.
Yeah, for sure. Tell me they're not overfunded. Look at that guy's cell phone.
They get to the crime scene, and a lot of the people that are in charge of crime scene investigation are like, okay, hold on, Chief, don't take that guy in there. Also, you probably shouldn't go in there yet. No, they don't do that. They sort of try to stop him, and the Chief's like, that's okay, he can come with me. He's my friend.
Yeah, he's like, he's a good one or something.
Yeah, it's like...
This guy's like, I'm not sure it's good to have the press in here.
He's like, no, remember it's Thursday, Pete. This is Bring Your Friend to Crime Scene Day.
Yeah, and then he's like, come on, Chuck, let's go upstairs and check out these kids' bodies.
And he's like, sorry about that. I just stepped in all that blood and put my finger in that dead lady. Did that contaminate anything?
I'm tracking blood all through the crime scene.
Eventually, Orville will show up. And he will go for the Academy Award right here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it calls for it. It calls for it.
Do you want to give us a Not the Children?
Not the children! Not the children! He has a lot of ramp up to it, but...
Yeah, I'm going to give it more of a... Because he's, like, trying for it, but he doesn't want to go too big, so he really just sort of falls on his fucking face every time he tries. I'm going to do it. I'm going to try to get where he's at.
Okay.
Not the children. 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 You're like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, pick a lane, buddy. This is like stretcher after stretcher of wives are brought out.
He keeps going, what are you doing? What are you doing? We're loading these dead bodies into the car. Somebody should have stopped you about 12 feet ago. Sorry about that.
Seriously. It's pretty intense. I like lost 7 wives and 4,500 kids or something that day.
Yeah.
It's a lot to go through.
As he's on the ground, praying and crying, Bronson kind of looks at him like, yeah, I might feel sort of bad for that guy, but
what's for lunch?
I didn't finish my lunch.
I always think he's ready to eat.
He is ready to eat.
He mentions food in like 3 or 4 movies, and to me, that's all Bronson's concerned with. Is food.
Yeah. Sticking my finger in that dead pregnant lady makes me want a pickle.
I'm gonna get some olives.
Forward cut to him at home with his lovely wife, who's like 30 years younger than him.
Right.
He's a real swanky reporter. And he's like, you weren't there. She says, we were all there. I guess his writing is too descriptive.
Oh, yeah. She's like, you showed me. You brought us all there.
He's decided that, the wheels of criminal justice aren't really turning fast enough, so decides to work on the case himself. Travels to the town of New Zion, Colorado.
Right. Is this out in the Benchlands? Or is that even further out when he goes to visit someone? I remember someone calling it the Benchlands, and someone described it as the ass end of the county or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's later.
Oh,
okay. He goes here in his Buick station wagon.
Right.
And he meets the
prophet?
He gets there, and we see that the filmmakers have decided that Mormons are basically Amish people with cars.
Yeah. Yeah, and their services seem to be more like, almost like snake handly type services. And this where I was like, is this what part, do they do this kind of thing too? Are they kind of like this in these kind of sects? Or is this just them mixing up all their bullshit?
I think they're just mixing up all their bullshit.
All right.
I feel like these weird fundamentalist towns, you never really know what you're going to get. Maybe they make their own clothes, maybe they don't. Read a story one time about a guy that had one of his own, and he was just he had like a whole town of trailers that he built that were all his kids, and they were working for him as telemarketers.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. What a racket. Come here, honey. We need some new employees.
These Amish people are fairly violent, and they have their own police force, which is a cowboy and a guy that looks like he could have been in Grease 3 had they made it. They tell him, he's in there. The guy he's looking for, which is Willis, Orville's dad.
Right.
And they don't say, he's in the middle of a sermon, at which point Charles Bronson would be like, I'll wait then. But instead they're like, he's in there. And so he walks in and he's in the middle of a sermon. So he has to sit through Willis talking about the Antichrist could be your brother. And then he just, kill your brother! Kill your brother!
Yeah.
After his riveting sermon, we find out that he actually does want to kill his brother. He hates him real bad.
His name's Zenas? Zenas?
Zenist.
Yeah.
Zenas Beecham and Willis Beecham. The gunfighting Beechams. Their other brother, Weenus, doesn't really like to fight, huh?
Oh, God. I feel like Bronson's pretty imposing. Like he comes in. I think he would have gone in no matter what, because they. Oh wait, no? Never mind. I'm jumping ahead. Go ahead. I'll get to that later.
Well, he delivers the message that Orville's family has been massacred. Willis is beside himself. Then he tells him, Orville said specifically not to go out and kill all those people until he gets back here. All right, I've done my job as a reporter. What?
Yeah, his occupation's real weird. Because it just seems like Bronson's occupation is just killing people, generally. Like, in any movie, it doesn't matter what he does. Like, eventually, what he's doing is he's a murderous cop, eventually. No matter what his profession. So yeah, it's real confusing here, because you're like, is he writing a story, or is he just going to settle this?
In his defense, the police chief, who is his friend, who's running for mayor, is doing jack and shit about one of the most heinous crimes that I've seen on film.
Yeah, for sure. But is it in his jurisdiction? I mean,
I feel like you can call the state police on this one.
yeah, you'd think.
They're going to do that like 2 weeks later. We'll get to that, but it's like, how's it coming on that case? Well, Chuck, I haven't actually worked on it at all.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it.
I'm running for mayor, right? So then, because the police are doing nothing about it, Chuck has to go to the armpit of Colorado, as they describe it, and on a train.
Yeah.
When he gets there, where he's really given the runaround by the local sheriff, and we find out the whole town's Mormon from the lady that runs the newspaper, who says she's not very Mormon anymore, and she only married one guy, and they started a newspaper, and she's out for the truth. And she's got a pretty bitchin' blazer, so she can give him a ride down to Zenist's house.
Yep, yeah. She's not very Mormon, see, because she knows how to read other stuff.
Boo.
I think that's what the movie's telling us.
They're wrong. How are you going to make that much macaroni art without a certain amount of education?
You're right.
We're then introduced to John Ireland as Zenas, and it's only been about a month and a half, maybe 2 months since John Ireland showed up on the show, so it's nice to have him back. He's pretty badass. I like John Ireland a lot. It's too bad the tail end of his career really went into the fucking toilet.
Not here, right?
And he was usually in... I mean, you have to go back to the days of when Westerns were big.
Right.
When Western was big, he was a big shot.
Yeah. Well, this is where I would want to end up. Watching Bronson collect a paycheck.
Yeah. They paid me enough that I didn't have to put my wife in this one. Zenas, because he's showed up with one of his cousins because they're inbred, has invited them in for dinner where they're having biscuits dipped in jelly that they call Bronco sauce or Bronco gravy. Bronco dip. They're eating Dunkers.
I mean, I heard that Mormons did invent fry sauce, right?
Really?
That's what I've heard. I was like, that's the Mormons' one big contribution to our culture.
No, I don't know.
Fry sauce.
I'm not going to stand behind that.
You're
like
not?
fry sauce is, no, I'm not. I'm not going to get behind that one.
I'm gonna find proof.
Isn't the McDonald's secret sauce the first fry sauce?
That's not fry sauce. That's just like Thousand Island, basically.
Isn't Thousand Island fry sauce?
No. Fry sauce does not have relish in it. Fry sauce is just ketchup and mayonnaise, essentially.
Okay, I see. I thought that fry sauce.
Here we go. According to local history, fry sauce was created in the late 1940s by Don Carlos Edwards, founder of the Utah-based fast food chain Arctic Circle. Originally called pink sauce. The recipe included ketchup, mayo, garlic, a mix of other spices. It doesn't talk about his Mormonism here, but I'm assuming that's why. Is that he's a Mormon.
Huh.
Utah-based.
How about that?
There you go. I shared one thing I know, kind of.
Well, dinner goes sour. Bronson only gets a cup of peach juice, doesn't have any of his Bronco Dunkers, which is too bad.
Yeah.
And they have to go back to, I guess, Aspen or wherever the hell it is they came from. And they're trying, and then all of a sudden we're briefly in the Steven Spielberg movie Duel.
Yeah. We get to be in Duel like twice in this movie.
Yeah. The second time is more exciting, but this time,
yeah,
there's a common trait in the late Bronson films is him on screen being completely unaffected by obvious peril.
Yeah, yeah. Which is just another reason why he resembles Teddy Ruxpin.
If you stuff some Led Zeppelin into him and watch some, it's a fucking party. Just like Teddy Ruxpin.
Yeah, yeah.
They get run off the road by the water company.
Yes.
And the Colorado Water Company, I think, which will come into play later.
I believe so.
He's like,
Colorado Water Company.
My, that was perilous. Also, I can help you publish your stories. See you later.
Mm-hmm. He says, I like it's like immediately, like they get run off the road by that truck, and it cuts to Bronson, who just goes, "That son of a bitch."
Oh, that's right. I even wrote that down. Because he's unaffected by the peril until they're off the road.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
it's
he's
like he just realized what happened.
Must just got his CDO. That's some bad driving. But then when they run off the road, he's like, "That son of a bitch."
You just can't believe they took it that far.
He gets back to Denver so that he can go to a swanky dinner party.
Those
the
dinner parties are awful.
Yeah, they're at Homer's house.
Imagine? Ugh.
These people are, oh man. They're like, oh, this old lady's like, well, I can't drink now because the reporter's here. Why? Exactly. Yeah. What are you going to do, spill the beans?
Yeah, you don't want to hear what she talks like when she's soused.
She's going to spill the beans on the symphony because that's all she talks about in this goddamn movie.
Right.
They're at dinner for all of 90 seconds before they're like, you know what's good conversation at dinner?
Yeah.
That massacre.
Yeah, because, well, you know, this is the only time the captain gets, whoever it is, gets briefed on it. Can't be bothered when he's working, but it's dinner time. Tell us about those murdered children.
They decide to skip dinner and have drinks after a conversation with some rich guy saying, well, I'll call the state police. Like, I mean, he's the police chief of Denver. He might be able to coordinate this a little bit better. Reluctantly, the police chief decides to do it. 2 weeks later, get some other police involved in a case that's obviously spanning 2 or 3 counties.
Yeah.
They bring in the state police, but then they just drive back to Zion, and where the church is starting its ambush plan.
Right.
They walk into it.
Willis is getting his troops together.
He's getting the troops together. Charles Bronson tries to talk him down, so he dies.
He says,
I guess the cholesterol got him.
No affair of yours! No affair of yours! But he has a heart attack.
Or does he?
Or does he? But this is where I'm like, now Bronson doesn't give a shit if he's welcome or not. Because they make it pretty clear that he's not welcome at the funeral. And he's like, I'm going to stick around for the funeral.
He does. He sticks around for the funeral. Sure enough, nobody shows up to it. So he shoots the casket with a shotgun.
Mm-hmm, as you do, to prove a point.
Yeah. And then he opens it. And then no one there says, well, you could have just opened it without shooting it. And then he says, what's the fun in that?
Yeah. I don't get to hold a gun in this movie otherwise.
Is that the only time he holds a gun?
I think so.
I
wasn't
think
really thinking
so.
about it towards the end, but I don't remember him holding a gun again.
Another reason maybe why this gets so many positive reviews when it comes out is that, like, it's just not a Charles Bronson movie on the surface, but it totally is a Charles Bronson movie. It's him just walking around Bronsoning everywhere. There's no fucking difference whether he's shooting people or not.
Right. It's just not, it doesn't go the full Monty on being just another Death Wish clone, like all of his other movies.
Even though they obviously put death in the title in order to capitalize on that.
Right.
Also, it should be mentioned that this graveyard has like 8 graves in it.
Yes.
Not, and the fence is really small. Like, I guess they're all planning on living forever.
It's an old family graveyard. Oh, no.
Well, we talked about it, and why, when we all start dying, I guess we'll just make the fence bigger. Wait, but then we'd be dead. Hold on.
Oh, shit.
Town hall meeting.
Don't let that former Mormon that runs the newspaper in here to give any of her advanced thought.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Oh, she's so high and mighty with her high school diploma.
Your typewriter.
So he drives down to the gas station and calls her, just in fact. This is actually also George C. Scott's wife. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Lucky
and she's like,
lady.
sure. Yeah. Well, I'm sure that was probably pretty awesome stuff, being married to George C. Scott. I don't know.
I'd marry George C. Scott. Why not?
We get to see the Buick show its balls. That Buick can get up and go.
Yeah.
They need to make station wagons like that again.
I would drive one of those.
They probably don't need to make station wagons like that again, but yeah, those things could they could get down and move.
Yeah. If they could make a one like that was, like an electric version that had a lot of get up and go still, I would drive something like that. I like those big boat cars that are just like gas guzzlers, so that they're just not practical anymore. But if they could find a eco-friendly way to do them, that's the kind of car I would like.
I'm sure that someone could build a large station wagon that was electric that hauled some serious ass.
I'm sure Neil Young has one.
I don't know if
he's
Neil Young
into it.
even drives. I think he just
developed
flies around.
He developed some eco-friendly hot rod or something.
I think he can just teleport through the power of sound.
I think you're right. He's everywhere, all the time.
Chuck doesn't give that shotgun back, but at the same time, we never see it again. I guess he just disposes of it. He's like, yeah, this isn't a gun kind of movie.
He's like, whoops, wrong movie. Don't worry, I'll throw it where I throw all my guns after all my other murders.
Oh.
It's just like a big mound of guns under the bridge. Just coming up out of the water. It's the Bronson pile.
The Hudson?
Yeah.
Gotta find a new spot. They're not gonna be able to get any boats through here.
Oh boy.
Despite the fact that the ambush team has left the night before, he is able to beat them to Zenith's house.
I didn't understand
we
that
find
at all.
out it's because they drove 6 the whole way, because they're driving 6 to the ambush by the orchards. They're going to move faster on foot the way we see them driving.
Yeah.
He's going to warn Zenith that there's an impending gunfight, at which point Zenith says, all right, nobody under 12 in the gunfight.
Yeah. Yeah.
A 10 or 11-year-old will run out in this gunfight while bullets are flying everywhere, and he's cocked, locked, and ready to rock. He's about ready to start spraying bullets everywhere. And Zenith is like, over 12, Jonathan, over 12. No gunfighting yet. Hey, your birthday's in 2 weeks, god damn it. Get back in there, you can be in the next one.
I promised your mom you wouldn't die before you're 12.
Which one's my mom? We all forgot.
Know.
The assholes wouldn't pop out so fast we could keep track.
Seriously. I'm bad with names. I can never have a family that big.
Oh no, that would be awful.
You know, people like already you mix up your kids' names, or you know how old people do. Like I'm starting to do, where it's like yeah, Hayden, Fritz, Elizabeth, you know, you never come up with a name.
I was actually able to get it like perfectly down the way that my grandmother, when she was mad, used to yell at me, and she would go through everybody's name first. So her 3 sons, my brother, and then me, and she would always go, Bruce, Matt, Ben, Tim, Sam.
Just cover everybody.
Cover all the bases. But she always got you last. It was the craziest thing.
Weird. Just got to run through the others.
And she did it so much that I'm able to reproduce it that quickly because I've done it more. I've been working on it for a while. I was my whole childhood. I was able to like, oh, there it is again. Bruce, Matt, Ben, Tim, Sam. All right. Awesome. I do notice that Willis has not trained his family in the art of aiming a gun, whereas Zenith has. Zenith's people are aiming, and they are hitting a lot of other people.
Yeah.
Bronson finds a t-shirt somewhere, and he waves the white flag, and he's like, Willis, Zenith said, we're going to truce until we talk. We got to talk.
And then he looks at Zenith, and Zenith's like, okay.
Yeah, I agreed to that, I guess.
Sure.
And then Orville's like, we should hear him out. And Willis is like, why? Because they're aiming and they're hitting all of us. And we need a timeout. We just straight up need a timeout right now. This gunfight is going south on us. We got to regroup.
Yeah. Have we found out yet about the water?
Yeah. Okay. I guess during the gunfight.
Is that where it happens? I can't remember, but it turns out that their land is on a lake of... on top of a lake of artesian water. Artesian water.
Yeah, and somehow the Colorado Water Company people got to them before Rainier, and I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's Rainier that's the artesian wells, or is that Olympia?
Well, I don't know.
Maybe it's Olympia. One of the beer companies is made from artesian water right on the can. It's great stuff.
Man. Well, the Colorado Water Company wants that land, so it wants that water.
For fracking.
Is that what it's for?
They're talked about the shale mining for oil.
Oh, yeah. You're right. Yeah.
So, been a problem for a while.
They're exploiting this blood feud. This is their...
Wait a second.
This is their
Is
plan?
this Chinatown?
It's kind of... It's... Fuck, I forgot the name of the place. It's the Benchlands, Jake.
This is the Benchlands, Enos. Let's get out of here.
So yeah, of course, it's all the corrupt big business powers that be trying to steal the land from these peace-loving polygamists.
They're not peace-loving.
No, they're not.
You get to be in
they're
gunfights
warlike.
when you're... You get to be in gunfights when you're 12.
That's right. That's right. You got to be ready to fight.
Not until you're 12. Until you're 12, just Lord of the Flies with the other children until only the strongest are alive.
Yeah. Then we'll see if you're really strong. See if you can kill your uncle.
Yeah. I'll show you right now. Here. Go out there, Steve. That's your Uncle Steve. Got an important lesson to teach you, Jonathan. Hold up your hat, Steve. Then he shoots him, just like in Three Amigos, and he's like, look at that, Jonathan. Even when you're over 12, you're not bulletproof.
That's right. The more you know.
There's an assassin on the hill. It's the same man. We're finding out, because there's a lot of, like, serious whodunit on this, and they don't reveal information very often. So, had this thing moved along a little bit quicker, you'd really be like, wow, this is quite a good whodunit. I don't know. Now there's a man in black on the hill. He's instigating the fight. So a sniper shoots Zenas, at which point the gunfight reignites and they all kill each other. Yeah. With the exception of a few. Orville ends up with a few. Zenas... I don't really know if Zenas ever dies. It seems like he's still alive. Because he keeps moving around. I just don't know.
Yeah, I lost all track.
But both sides take heavy casualties.
Yeah, there's not going to be much of them left when all this is settled.
Chuck runs down the sniper, kind of, realizes there's somebody else there. Him and George C. Scott's wife get back into that blazer, and now we get the car chase.
Right, the killers make a call from their car and say, that guy's back and blah, blah, and they're like, where is he? We'll take care of it. Well, now they got Duel 2.
Duel 3? Because there is a third truck.
Oh, shit. Yeah, they're really upping the ante here. And again, Bronson's nonplussed, just like, yeah.
I don't know how they did this, if they did this live or what sort of rigging they used, but they have that K5 Blazer, and I don't know if it's K5 or Post, but that thing's hopping tires between the two trucks. This is dangerous stunt work that's happening right here.
I was really worried about it because, not worried about it, I was wondering about it because there's one shot in particular where it's getting so shaken around that the figures inside are just being whipped back and forth. And I was like, I mean, there has to be stunt drivers in that thing, right?
Yeah, the stunt driver or the stunt coordinator, I forgot his name. Good job. Good reporting by me. He receives a cast credit, or it said in the cast credit list towards the end, it says stunt coordinator where it shouldn't. Because he did that driving himself, and that's some fucking driving.
It looks crazy. Like, it looks like someone's really getting hurt there at one point. Or it looks like I would have thought they were dummies if it hadn't seemed so impossible for that to be the case.
There's a very high likelihood that this goes bad, and they did it anyway. This is like, they did this stunt sequence on 10% chances, and they made it through. This guy can really drive.
Yeah. Well, this is what Bronson says he's going to get those killers and the ones who make the decisions. Bronson thinks he's going to fix a corrupt system here.
Yeah, Billy Jack already went to Washington, bud.
Exactly. But when the truck gets... their Blazer gets overturned. Goes crashing. And then the truck runs into it. And that thing explodes.
Exploded! Apparently the late 70s, early 80s Chevys did have a gas tank defect that would cause that in all of the films.
Yeah, every movie you watch.
I remember watching a news story on it when I was a kid, like, just like in the movies, these GM cars blow up. And then, of course, after they get slandered years, it's like the Pinto, like the exact circumstances that it took to get to the Pinto to explode or the 90s GM cars was like, okay, that's, I guess it could happen, but wow.
Right.
Wow. He gets back to Denver, so he decides to have a luncheon with the who's who of Denver again.
Mm-hmm. Now on these horrible parties.
More of the horrible parties. They go to the same place. There's like only one. It's like Cal's Fish and Chips is the only place anybody eats, I guess.
Yeah.
He brings them all to lunch, and there's a long discussion, and he finally quits beating around the bush and says, well, they tried to kill me, and you people own the company that tried to kill me. Yeah. And then the guy owning the company says, well, is that what this is about?
Right. And this is where he is this the one that he got the lunch under false pretenses? Like or not false, but they didn't know why they were having lunch with him. Like someone else arranged it and came with him. What's that guy's title?
Homer. He's Homer. He's a guy that I think he's the campaign manager for the police chief, but he's also like super rich and he doesn't make sense. Later, because we're not really going to talk about it, it really alludes to the fact that he's having an affair with Cyrus's wife, but that none of it really sort of comes together, say.
I see.
But yeah, it's not really false pretenses. He's like, I want to talk to him.
But then that guy doesn't tell them why he wants to talk to them.
He's like, oh, he just wanted to talk to you. I don't know. I guess you were trying to murder him. I didn't know. Look, the fish and chips are here.
But there we learn that, the cop is beholden to powerful interests. Shocker. And then...
Shocker.
Bronson's all like, fuck that.
Then a phone call comes in the middle of his accusations of attempted murder on his person. And it turns out it's the driver from all the other murders, and he's gotten some cold feet and wants to meet Bronson.
Yeah, wants to cut a deal with the star journalist.
In this deal, we'll just skip ahead to the deal. He wants $50,000 to sing, and he's like, "You can't publish the article until I'm already in Mexico." And Bronson's like, "All right, I'll call my editor."
Yeah.
This is the point where the stool pigeon has decided that, well, I bet this phone call to the editor over $50,000 is going to take a while because newspapers totally wouldn't pay 50 grand for this story. They would pay that. He's like seriously going to be gone 3 minutes. He decides, I'll just go down this long corridor into a long, dark hallway and an abandoned bathroom. I'm sure to not be killed by the man I'm betraying.
Right.
He's killed by the man he's betraying. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's crazy. Did you notice how put out Bronson is when he answers the phone? Like, at the restaurant, they tell him he has a phone call, and he goes and takes it, and he picks up the phone and he goes, "Hello." It's like, he's always like, seems like. There's another one, like later he's on the phone when we come into the scene, he's on the phone, and he just sounds like he's, okay.
No, the best part about the phone call in the restaurant is he's like, do you know how many of these I get a day? And the guy's on the other end like, what?
Telephone calls?
How bad is Denver if you're getting like, I know the secret to the massacre phone calls 3 days a week.
Yeah. Well, I think he's implying that he gets a lot of bunk calls, you know? A lot of crazy people.
Listen up, crazy.
They call him at the restaurant where he's having lunch.
Uh-huh.
Makes sense.
You know who murdered all these people? I'll meet you. Yeah, he's murdered. And then I need to get your take on this because there's the guy, I guess, stabs him in both of the kidneys, and it takes forever for him to die painfully and slowly for being a snitch. And he comes out of the stall with a bloodless Bowie knife. I guess he went into the stall to clean it off. Bronson's still in there. Where are you at on this knife hand switching business?
I'm not sure.
I mean, you see this in movies a lot. Like the knife guy, like switches the knife back and forth between hands. Like,
right, like as a threatening thing. Like it's. Yeah, I never really understood that. I mean, I guess it could be a practical thing, like as you're moving, being like, I want to go with the one that has the best. I got the best shot with. You know what I mean? But it doesn't seem to be that. It seems more peacocking. It's
peacocking. It's nonsense. Yeah. You go with your dominant hand, and he's doing the knife switch thing, and he's looking at Bronson like, "Oh, look at me! I can use both hands with this knife." And Bronson's looking back like, "If you could use that knife, I'd be dead already. Right. I'm gonna beat you up with a trash can."
Yeah,
a Rubbermaid trash can.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about the knife hand switching. I guess I just don't even acknowledge that shit anymore. It's just what you do when you have a knife, when you're about to have a knife fight.
My biggest things to look out for when I watch bad movies are poorly executed dives and knife switching.
Dives? Like into water?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like the dive at the end of Solar Babies in the credit sequence is uneclipsed. It is by far the worst dive that has ever happened in film.
I don't think I've seen Solar Babies. I'll have to watch it now.
You've never seen Solar Babies?
I don't think so. Is it great?
No, it's actually almost torture, but it's a must-watch.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll get on it.
For you, it's a must-watch. I don't know about the viewers.
Right.
Or the listeners, I mean. Well, he knocks him out of the window with a Rubbermaid trash can, and there's a dumpster down there, of course, full of things that aren't sharp, and the killer is able to make off with his life.
Yeah.
Goes and visits Orville. Orville is being a dipshit still.
Yeah. Now, it's Orville who has talked to the Lord, right? And the Lord told him, it's not up to me to avenge myself, and it's not up to you either. Something like that. And I thought
he said that the first time.
Fuck off. I mean, fuck that, you know? I thought he was going to go avenge him.
Yeah, well, I thought Bronson would be like, but Orville, you took a crack team of your Mormon gunmen to avenge earlier in the movie.
Right. Well, yes. Yeah. Well, that's what happened.
Yeah. So guess what? Dinner party.
Another goddamn high society dinner party.
This all apparently all of the other dinner parties leading up to this dinner party were just lube ups.
Yeah.
He's just Homer's just greasing people, just getting those cheeks spread. Now he's like, all right, let's crap out some checks, people.
Yeah.
Let's see some cash.
We've had 3 parties. It's time to fork over.
Fork it out. This is the guy. The I want to be the mayor speech is really good because he's like,
yeah,
catching bad guys is dirty work. I don't like it, so I let Charles Bronson, the reporter, do that instead.
Yeah.
When I'm mayor and I need to build a town, which is a more positive thing, I'll probably let reporter Charles Bronson do that instead also, like again.
This reporter from the Denver Chronicle or whatever is the best cop I have on the force.
He seems like he's the only cop he has on the force.
It's
the state
true.
cop guys, there's at least 2 of them. They show up and they're like, I like it to go back way back into it when he's like, I'm going to stick around for the funeral. The state cop goes, okay, and then leaves.
Yeah. They're not concerned with this community at all.
Like, whatever, bud.
Okay, reporter. You don't have to do this cop stuff. We don't. No one has to.
At the party, there's more chatter about how the Denver Symphony isn't receiving enough money, so, we got to worry about that.
Right. It's a concern.
Then the Homer's like, hey, I just I found out some pertinent evidence on the case. And Charles Bronson's like, oh, so the only people working on this are you and me, Homer. All right. And Homer invites him into his private study. I really want to know what Homer does because he seems super rich.
Yeah.
You wouldn't really be a campaign manager if you're already this super rich.
Yeah. That seems weird.
In the study, there's now a study put on of murder.
Dun, 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 dun.
At this point, the assassin says, as he's knocking books over, and Bronson goes, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's like, you're the big shot reporter. You know what I'm doing. I'm making it look like a burglary. So that, you know what burglars do when they get caught? They shoot people. And Bronson's like, that's why you shoot the guy first before you start monologuing. And then does he beat this man up? I'm going to burn a question right now. Does he beat this man up?
I don't know. I honestly don't know what happens at the end with that guy. Like, I don't know if I was fading out at the end, but I'm like, I didn't write anything down, and I'm like, I remember the books and him asking about that, but I don't recall what happened. I remember what happens to the Homer.
Yeah. He kind
What
of
happened
tosses
to the
him
killer
around.
guy?
He
Yeah.
tosses him around the study a little bit. Just,
It's like
take that, you.
grabbing his shoulders and throwing him up against the wall and stuff like that.
My note that I wrote down is, the murderer has fallen upon hard times, I guess.
Ha!
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 Because he's not really beating him up very hard. He does toss him down the stairs. That'll do some damage. Tosses him down the stairs a couple times. And then he's kicking him while he's down a lot. Just some real journalistic brutality happening here.
Yeah, we don't hear a lot of outcry about that. Journalist brutality.
There's not very much of it. Only in this movie.
Bronson's not usually a journalist.
So he finally gets him downstairs, and people are like, what's going on here? Why is that reporter beating up the waiter? He's like, sing, monkey, sing.
Yeah. This is how he gets
Eventually.
his stories.
The assassin fingers Homer on the deal.
And Homer's response to shoot himself.
He does a little bit of an Academy Award stretch here.
Well,
It's like,
sure.
why'd you do that? Why couldn't you just keep your mouth shut?
Keep your mouth shut, see?
Then the lady that's worried about the symphony yells, "This party sucks." That doesn't actually happen, but it should have.
Nothing really happens after that. Like, he shoots himself, we see Bronson, and then it's black, right? Like, that's it.
Yeah, he shoots himself, and Bronson kind of looks surprised by it, like, "Oh, I guess it's Thursday already."
Yeah. He's like, well, this story wraps itself up, doesn't it? It's already typing in his head, you know? And then the music, Tommy Chung!
Tommy Chung! I wanted to be able to accuse this movie of being shitty Scooby-Doo, but because there's an absolute lack of denouement, that it's just like, that guy shot himself. Movie's over.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah, we don't really know anything else. Like, all the other characters are just abandoned. We don't care about this Mormon community at all.
We can never find out how crooked the couple that owns everything in Colorado is. We don't find out anything.
Yeah, because there is a question, because the guy that owns the water company gave it to his wife, because he owns so many things. He's just like, here, my wife's company, and he gives it to her. But she doesn't seem to know the nefarious shit that's going on, and I don't know if he does either.
Now, he kind of alludes to the fact that there's like a sort of a renege deal with him and Homer on the fracking or whatever, the shale mining, and there's some dialogue paid to the idea that Homer's sleeping with his wife. So I think Homer's plan is to get the land and frame Cirrus for the murder, but there's just not enough time spent on it. So it's just like Bronson wandering around in a whodunit, and at the end, some guy's like, "He did it," and Bronson's like, "Thanks, movie's over."
Okay. I'll see you mañana. And he grabs some stuff from craft services on his way out and stuffs it in his pockets.
Yeah. I'll see you all next year in Death Wish 4.
Man. That is my biggest problem with this movie, is like, where were there was not enough scenes of Bronson either eating food or talking about food.
In fact, every time they go someplace to get food, he never gets any food.
Yeah, it's really unrealistic.
I don't know. I was going to say, I had a coach once that told me, hungry dog runs faster. Maybe that's why he's such a good reporter, is because he can never get lunch.
Oh, perhaps. It's a character choice. Interesting. This is really not your typical Bronson.
Hard-hitting stuff. Kind of.
Yeah.
Only with a trash can. Let's move on to questions. Do you have questions?
Well, my question was about the Mormonism, and my, and I was just questioning why there weren't more scenes about food. Other than that,
covered your stuff.
You covered my questions.
Okay, I've got two.
Okay, good.
First, has justice been served?
Interesting. Probably not. I would imagine there's more people involved in this. I think the company needs to be held accountable. There needs to be more oversight. This can't be, this can't be happening. And also, you got God's justice to worry about too.
Yeah.
You don't.
Oh, okay. I'd add that for justice to be served, even if this is a serving of justice, the police should probably get involved at some level.
I think there should be better police. I think there needs to be a complete overhaul of whatever policing they are doing, because it's not working.
Well, you know what? That just spontaneously added another question. What would happen to Denver if this fucking guy becomes the mayor?
Well, I don't know, because it seems like Denver leaves everything up to Bronson anyway. So, just a continuation of current policy, probably.
All right. Then another spontaneous question. Is this what happened to Denver? Because the last time I was there, that was a rough town.
Really? Was it rough?
Denver's got at the Brewers Fest, the vendors are told, stick to these streets, only go on them between these hours.
Weird. Wow, I've only been to Denver once, and while I didn't care for it, I didn't find it scary or rough or threatening in the area I was in, at least. But I was just kind of downtownish, I guess. But yeah, that's good to know.
I feel like the toughest towns are the two towns that I've been to where I was like, I feel eerily in peril right now. Are Denver, Colorado, and Baltimore, Maryland.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I could see it. I could see Baltimore being a little freaky sometimes.
Baltimore is a rough town.
Yeah. Cool town, too.
There's a lot of cool stuff there, but there's neighborhoods where you're like, I should not be here.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
My final question. How much do you think Homer saved on this assassin?
How much did he save, like, as opposed to, like, what he'd have to pay other assassins?
Let's go with the percentage here.
Like, as a bulk deal?
Like, I was going to go with so-and-so. I heard he was the best. Way too much money.
This guy's 40% cheaper.
Yeah, then I was told to go with him. He was 30% cheaper, but it's still too much. You came in right here, though. Where is right there?
Right here. Well, he was 20%. He was only 20% of the other guy's fee, but he had to buy him a new hat and jacket. His hat and his jacket were part of the deal. It's not
the hat came with
assassin.
The hat came with this Bowie knife. Oh, that's cool. I'll use that to kill my driver.
It was a set.
Final recommendations. I'll go first because this is your pick.
Okay.
I'm glad I watched it because I am watching all of Bronson stuff, but in good conscience, I cannot recommend this over the other zany Bronsons because it's just too slow. It is too boring.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think it's, I can't make it an official recommend unless you're a Bronson or canon completist, in which case, of course you're going to watch it. But
I'm watching it just for those reasons. And they're on paper, this should be the one and not Love and Bullets because it's got children mass murder. It really goes into a weird left field direction with the anti-cultist shit. It's got Bronson as a reporter who has to beat people up. It should be the one, and it's not. It just isn't.
No. Like, half the time it just feels like you're watching, like, Simon and Simon or something. Like, it has that feeling. Like
Eat shit. Simon and Simon is exciting.
Well, sure. I don't mean that. I just mean that it looks like it might as well be like a mid-'80s TV show. You know what I mean? Like,
no. Don't talk shit about Simon and Simon. That's like my favorite fucking show.
I like Simon and Simon, but it's not something I would like go see in a theater.
I think I spent half my life trying to become Rick Simon.
We watched quite a bit of Simon and Simon and syndication.
And now that I'm 40, I'm just trying to become Major Dad.
Oh man. But But yeah, it's not particularly cinematically exciting, is my point.
Yeah, Justin has the worst time with Bronson movies. And
oh yeah,
I
he's
think
gonna be real
this
excited that I picked this.
Yeah, this is possibly, I mean, we'll see what he thinks, but this is like the archetype of Bronson that he just can't handle this. Like, why am I watching this? Why did people like this? And I read the reviews. People liked this movie. And I'm like, what?
Weird.
Huh.
Yeah, that is pretty shocking. I wouldn't expect it to get great reviews. I mean, maybe they're just so, like, pummeled with, you know, the other garbage movies that he made for Canon that they were like, well, this one's seems like it would be on TBS on Sunday afternoon. It doesn't seem like too offensive or over the top, so they're just like, oh, it's good. Maybe that's why.
There are points when I'm watching this that I was like, if this wasn't a Bronson movie, this would be a good whodunit. This is actually kind of competently made. I read that J. Lee Thompson had fallen ill towards the tail end of production, and the second unit director had taken things over, but I don't know if that's... Maybe he just set it up to, like, play it straight, but it's played very straight. Yeah. As a mystery film. It's just... Canon shouldn't be doing mystery films, and this is fucking why.
Right. Yeah, it's more like... Forget Simon and Simon. It's more like a kind of a Peter Falkless Columbo episode. That's the feeling it gave me.
George C. Scott's wife and one of the other actors played lovers in an episode of Columbo, oddly enough. Oh. That are both in this film, reunited many years later. Oh. I would say Jake and the Fat Man. That show is borderline unviewable.
Okay, yeah, I didn't watch that one because it's unviewable. I always turned the channel when Jake and the Fat Man came on.
Well, that about wraps it up. For Justin and Jackie, I'm Sam, that's Tucker, and get to the food cart.